The difference between game development back in the beginning of the industry in the early 80s and now is massive. The differences are huge. Back then, people would make a game by themselves. So I would just come up with the idea, and I had to do the graphics and the sound and all the programming and the design and all the artwork, everything. And that's the way the industry started, was people at home making games and then sending them to publishers, the really early publishers like Sierra and Broderbund and Sirius. And they would send their games to these companies who then had connections to all the stores where they could actually sell those games, because there was no internet or anything. So you had to sell the physical thing, on a shelf. And back then it was like in a floppy, it was like in a Ziploc bag hanging from the wall. That was before they even had shelves. and so that it progressed from that point to teams of people working on games, to teams working within a publisher. So instead of a publisher depending on people sending good games to them, which is not a reliable way to run a company, they decided to actually hire the people that did that to start actually making them all day long, in a certain way. So game development got more serious. It got team-based. The media that was being sold turned into boxes, bigger and bigger and bigger boxes, and then consoles, and then it just really exploded. And nowadays you'll have games that are really massive, like Assassin's Creed, that take thousands of people to make, spread across 30 different companies that are all working together, to come up with a game that's probably going to be just downloaded, over the net, over some kind of, Steam or something. So yeah, everything has changed. Indie developers compete with big companies first of all, they don't make the same kind of games. Big companies make AAA games, which are massive investments of money, like tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars with huge teams. And indie studios are really small, from one person to, could be 20 people or even more. But that's a small team, compared to these 1,000-person or multi-thousand people teams. So it's actually, you can compete pretty well, because the games that you're going to make as an indie will not be the same as the AAAs. And as an indie, you can get your game out there easy now. It's very easy. Like before, it was hard to get into a store. Like you had to be a publisher to actually get shelf space somewhere, because you had no connection to that distribution network. And now everything is digital, and you can just publish yourself. You can go, just like you as a writer, you can write a book and put it on Amazon by yourself. As a game developer, you can put it on Google Play, you can put it on Steam, you can put it on the iOS App Store. You can put your games out there by yourself and without even a publisher. So publishing now for indies has gotten to the point where what matters most is user acquisition and getting people to see your game. So now it's really up to marketing versus the whole publishing thing. Now it's really just like, you need to get marketing. You need your game to get out there. So that's where it's at right now, where people need to get in touch. The companies are now basically serving indies as outreach. They're marketing, they're getting users in the game, and getting eyeballs on your app, basically. The biggest, most important skill that that gamers or game developers have always needed is like really great design sense. Coming up with really great game designs that people would really like to play. And in design, the design language has evolved since the beginning of games to today. That every game that comes out might introduce a little piece of word in the vocabulary of design that people always look at as where's the next bar level at, where's the quality and the design level. And people pay attention to that. And design has evolved over all these decades to where a game can come out right now that's unbelievably great and could have been made in 1980, but it wasn't, because no one had the idea, even though it's absolutely simple, and the game could have been made on a computer from the 80s. So that's how amazing design is, that you could come up with something, today that could have been made back then. Coming up with a game idea is, it's kind of interesting, because if all you've done is make games your whole life, it's extremely easy to come up with game ideas. It's really, really easy. But you know it's really easy, and what's important is that the thing that the idea that you come up with needs to be unique. It needs to be something that's interesting, otherwise why are you gonna make it? You know, there's no reason to put a game out there that's just like every other game. Like, why would someone wanna buy that? So if you do design all the time and you look at other people's designs and you play stuff, you'll know that an idea that you had is at least unique to what you know. It's like, oh, I had this really cool idea. I love the way all this stuff plays in some of these games, but this one thing that I haven't seen before really changes it all. And being able to identify what those new things are is really important. You know, coming up with a really new style of game. That's a really, really important thing. You know, like when you know, the idea for Minecraft when that came out, that was based off of you know, several ideas that came before it. But when Marcus had the idea of doing something different than Infiniminer, that absolutely changed the game. You know, even though it was a similar look in a similar way that you did the basics, the world itself and the depth of the world was absolutely not like the original, and changed it into something that was unbelievable, you know.